two very different defenders as well. Like one's kind of like the
Saliba's
more
generation.
nonchalant.
No, he's not. By very virtue, he's just better by that.
See, this is where
It's not about Saliba being generational.
generation. Do you know who generational is?
Kind of
Generational.
Beanie.
Thank you, Monts.
Oh, do you know what?
This
Sorry.
is where you lot got yourselves into trouble. And do you know what?
Yeah,
I'm surprised at you.
Sorry,
Do you know I'm surprised? You overrate your players again, bro.
I need to remember where I am. I need to remember where I am in it. Sorry, Arsenal tax. Sorry, Saliba plays for Arsenal, so he's not generational. But by the way, I guarantee you, the very moment that he goes to Real Madrid, Arsenal, he was generational. You know. By the way, killed it. It's not me that calls. It's not me that says this, bro. This is pretty much a widely accepted term across football. Not even football. YouTube football. Like,
is Gabriel generation? Is Gabriel generation?
No, wait. What's this?
In football, go and ask man about Saliba.
All right, Monts, you know, I don't hate Bellingham. Remember, we was having a discussion, and like I was saying, like I actually think Bellingham's good. In Madrid, the reason why they wanted Jude Bellingham, the whole PR line was he's generational. Like they've been wanting Jude Bellingham for time. In your opinion, is Jude Bellingham generational, Hooks?
In my opinion. I think it's fair. I think you can make a case for it.
See, as much as I rate Jude Bellingham, I don't think he's generational.
I think Jude Bellingham,
good player, very good player, but not generational.
See, now we're underrating him. I think Jude Bellingham was absolutely insane at Birmingham, absolutely insane at Dortmund, absolutely insane for England until Southgate moved him into the 10 because he got gassed by Carlo Ancelotti playing him in the false 9, where that season he actually pretty much carried Real Madrid. Like man hate on Jude Bellingham because Jude Bellingham, like he's not gonna do.
And you can say because he doesn't dribble like your mouth.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, he's not gonna do the rainbow flip into the back flip into the aerial like Travella into the bicycle kick, bro. Like he's not going to do that.
You don't even need to do that. Do you know, like I say, generational stuff. No, but here's the thing. There's this concept of these players of today. A lot of them are top players or on the verge of being top players, but we throw out these tags way too quickly, bro. Like, in my opinion, I rate Saliba. I still think Saliba's one of the best defenders in the world, but I wouldn't call him generational. You know, when we say generational, I think of people like Wayne Rooney. Generational, bro. Wayne Rooney is what you call a generational striker. You will not get another Wayne Rooney like that for time, bro. With Saliba, I think Saliba is a top-class defender. And I think if people don't think he's world-class, he's on the verge of being world-class because...
I think once you
guys win something, that kind of cements
what I would say
level. Do you get what I'm saying?
When we also talk about generation, I think there's a difference between a generational player and a generational talent. I say that because Anelka was seen as a generational talent. Henry was the generational player.
That's true.
If Anelka stayed at Arsenal, he would have become the generational player. But
I guess on a Kanye West thing, I guess we'll never know.
That's neither here nor there. It's neither here nor there.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's not taking away anything from either of the players, but like sometimes players are seen as greater talents at a younger age. But the argument, obviously,
Saliba's a generational talent.
Then so is Kanate. This is what I'm saying. That's why I say that.
No, Kanate is not a generational.
There is a reason why. All right, hear this now, Hooks. Normally, as we see, Real Madrid always want the best players, the best talents. They want Saliba and Kanate for a reason. They want to try and... Monts, am I capping when I'm saying this? When I'm speaking about Kanate? And even the recent reports have said they are trying to get all the best young stars as cheap as possible. They will try and get Kanate for when his contract runs out, and they will try their hardest to get Saliba. They want to pair the both of them up together because they are now going to be the leaders of France football in terms of from a defensive standpoint. That's what Real Madrid want at their club, bro. Ibou Kanate was seen as a massive star, you know. I'm just saying.
He's a good defender, but he's just not generational.
I think
even so, just going back to the argument, yeah. Matt, you obviously think that Kanate is better than Saliba.
Yeah.
For me as a Liverpool fan, I think Saliba is better than Kanate. But obviously, you was kind of putting it down to bozo moments. I think Kanate has more bozo moments than most top defenders. And don't give me, I don't think guys like Upamecano is a top defender, by the way. So before guys throw that name in there, I don't think Upamecano is a top defender. I think Konate is a top defender, but in his bracket of defenders that I kind of put him in, I think he's the most privy to making silly and rash decisions. I think he's superior when it comes to P&P than a lot of these defenders that people say are better than him. He's superior in certain aspects, but in terms of his intelligence as a defender, I still think there needs to be not major, but for me, significant improvements there, in my opinion. And that's what's probably stopping him from me putting him right at the top of certain lists. And that's just the way I see it. I think Saliba, when Saliba makes a bozo moment, it's more of a raw. Saliba had a bozo moment. When Konate makes a bozo mistake, it's like, Konate had a bozo. Do you see what I'm saying?
You know, I would say though,
that's my thing. Like, it's not crazy for people to see Konate make.
Right. I'm going to apply some context to it now. Arsenal and Liverpool played two different styles of football. Arsenal have more structure in terms of how they play, in terms of from a defensive standpoint, way more structure than what we do. We play a lot more expansive. We have a right back who now began to Madrid, who used to be just let off the leash, and Konate would have to cover that whole right-hand side. We said it time and time again. We are so sick to death of seeing space on the right-hand side, and Konate is having to cover up for Trent not getting back. We've seen that. At Arsenal, you have a Jurrien Timber who understands his defensive responsibilities. And Jurrien Timber is a defender first. He will get back and help Saliba. You don't really get that with Trent. That's why you got to apply context, Monts, because I understand it may look like that, but we will, in fact, we'll probably see it next season, whether it's Conor Bradley or somebody else. We'll still see if Konate still makes these bozo moments that you think are going to happen. Because I personally don't think so. I just think when you overcompensate, you're going to make errors. That's anybody. So
Trent's not played in games, and Konate still made bozo mistakes.
Bro, the way how our system is by design.
I know our system is. I know our system is more open, and the centre backs.
If that changes, though, Monts. So
our centre backs are more exposed than Arsenal centre backs. That's fair enough, but in the way, for me, some of the mistakes I've seen from Konate, in fact, many of them, they've not been in moments where we're making a mad transition, though. Like the one against Wolves, he was walking the ball backwards towards Alisson.
Yeah, that's different. That's
but this is what when I'm talking about bozo, I'm not even talking about that. I'm not talking about the high octane moments that are going 100 miles an hour where we're marauding back towards our goal, because we have to face more of those situations than Arsenal do. Because Arsenal get players back behind the ball.
You was the first person on this show to bring up stats. We're going to carry on. I'm going to find some stats for you. We're going to carry this on. Because you love your stats, right? Remember, this wasn't supposed to be a stat.
I gave you one stat. I gave you one stat. I just gave you one stat.
In this whole conversation with Hooks, with D, we've not mentioned stats in any conversation, you know. I'm just saying.
Fine. That's fine.
But you've opened the door, but it's all right.
That's fine. What's your opinion? What's your opinion on this? Because obviously, I know my fan base doesn't like that. I put Saliba above Konate, but
no. It's not about that much. If you think someone's better, that's fine. I think personally you're being a bit too harsh because maybe you have an grievance against that particular player. Like you maybe don't like. I don't know, bro. Maybe you don't like his playing style or something.
He just pisses me off. He just has too many brain farts, bro. He pisses me off sometimes.
But here's the thing, though, Monts. But you would defend other players.
He's too good for all of that, bro. He's too good to be.
We know you as the Trent Defend League leader, innit? Like let's say we know Trent's going.
That man's name around me, but go on.
I hear it, but even though it's going Real Madrid, you will defend Trent to bruv.
I've stepped down. I've stepped down. I don't run the TDL no more.
But you've got more patience with other players than you do for others, and it's fine. It's fine though.
Man, that's.
I don't know why though. I don't know.
I think that goes with every football fan. I do have more patience for Trent. Well, now I did have more patience for Trent.
Yeah, 100.
Because to me, what Trent offers, but I know obviously Konate offers a lot to the team as well. But you know, God, sorry, D. What's your take on it? Before I go on, what's your take?
No, I think I obviously naturally I see Saliba week in, week out, so I would always think Saliba's better, but I think Konate is way closer than we even think. I think he's super underrated. I don't think people knew. I think another thing about generational players as well is, one, you got to prove you're generational, and two, sometimes you think someone's more generational than someone else, but someone else is actually better. So the same way they were talking about Cole Palmer is the same way they're not talking about Bellingham, where he's done it at the highest level and for longer and young. He's younger, Bellingham's 21. You know what I'm saying? He's already tearing up Real Madrid. You act like Bellingham's 28. He's 21 years old. So I think it's about proving that I think Konate is just, if they were both like, if we looked at Konate and Saliba now and we judge it from this point, not from 2 years ago, then I think people would be having the conversation would be a lot closer. A lot closer. But I think we ran with, it's like before Saliba was it was Fofana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? We're talking about Fofana.
Even Saliba's come up was a little bit later. It was actually when he was 20. Because remember, Saliba's been at Arsenal for 3 years now, and he was on the 2 loans, and he done well on loan. So he wasn't seen as generational at that point.
No, he was.
I think generational was a stretch in terms.
He actually went
generational was definitely
spoken about in high regard when he was on loan.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say it. I
but
remember
player of the season at Marseille.
Because didn't he come through the same academy as
Mbappe?
Yeah, but he also played along Fofana. What was Fofana's team?
Saint Etienne.
Yeah, didn't he come through there? Am I going mad? He did go through there, innit?
He was at Bondi. He was at Bondi. Then I think he might have gone there.
Okay. He's at Saint Etienne, but he also
definitely played at Saint Etienne, though, right? I'm not going mad.
They were together for a bit. They were together for a bit.
Okay.
And Fofana was ahead of him.
Yeah, he was.
Right, Fofana didn't come to Leicester and all that type of stuff. So Fofana was ahead of him. So you can say generational, but I think you gotta prove you're generational at the time when people say you're generational. You can't wait a few years to say you're generational. You got to prove it at the time. So like Miles generational, he's proving it now. So you're generational talent. You know what I'm saying? I think you got to do it at that. Rooney was a generational talent because he was generational at 16.
Yeah. Obi, that's why I made this. That's why I said difference between generational talent and generational in general. I think to say someone's generational, you kind of got to wait till like they've done it for at least X amount of time. I think a generational talent is the things that we're seeing, like Yamal, the generational talent.
No, but Yamal's proved it already.
No, but Yamal could, God forbid, Yamal could fall off a cliff tomorrow, and he's not.
No, what I'm saying is, he's already proved. If he falls off a cliff tomorrow, people will just say that he hasn't proved that he's the best in the world.
He'll be looked at like certain players have been looked at when they've done really well.
Fati. I know Fati.
No.
Let me. Hear what I'm gonna say. Even though Fati never. No. Let me land this. Land it. With Ansu Fati, yeah, he never done half of the things that Yamal's even done. But in Barcelona, he was seen as a generational talent. I am not joking.
Yeah.
He was seen as generational talent.
Bojan settings.
Yeah, remember Bojan?
There's loads of them, bro. There's loads of them.
I wouldn't say those names.
Pato, you got like Alexander Pato.
Pato.
But the thing is, I wouldn't liken him to that. I'd say Mario Götze because I feel like a closer, even a Mario Götze.
Who are you talking about?
In terms of I'm saying if Yamal fell off a cliff tomorrow and never recovered, I feel like he'd be looked at a bit like Mario Götze.
No, he's done more than Götze already.
Yeah, Götze's won the World Cup for Germany, like
Spain, and he's won the Euro for Spain.
I know, but World Cup's more. Well, a World Cup is more.
No, but he's 17. The amount 17.
I know, but Götze was very young as well when he was doing what he was doing. I'm just saying.
He wasn't as young when he won the World Cup.
I'm not saying he wasn't as young. He wasn't as young as Yamal, but Götze was. Am I forgetting what Götze was on when he was?
Götze at Dortmund was absolutely
what Götze was doing.
Disgusting.
I think
it was unheard. It was almost unheard of what Götze was doing.
I think you need to comprehend something. Yeah,
he was 22 when he won the World. He was 22 when he won the World Cup.
I'm not even. Yeah, and yes, by the way, back to back with Dortmund. By the way, in a Bayern dominated league. By the way, but we're not gonna. You know what I'm saying? But like Götze was a special player, and Yamal was even more special. Yamal's doing better than what we.
But he was 22. That's what I'm saying. That's different level. That's different.
My point is, I'm saying that I'm talking about how a player would be remembered. I think that if Yamal was to because we're saying Yamal's a generational player now. If Yamal was to fall off tomorrow, he wouldn't be a generational player. He'd be a generational.
He would. He's already done it. He would.
Because I feel like to be a generational player,
I think he sees generational talent rather than. I know what you're saying. At 17, we've hardly ever seen anything like that. However, this is his first, would you say, like real season?
He's not gonna. By the way, your mom ain't falling off for nothing. By the way, but yeah.
No.
If he did, now he's 17. He's already done at 17 more than what most 17-year-olds. The only people that can compare to what Yamal's doing at 17 are people like Messi, Pele, people like that. Now he's already one of the best 17-year-olds we've ever seen. He's not the same as Götze. Götze proved his point at 22, 23 years old.
Watch this.
No, I'm not saying it's the same. I'm saying that, like, all I'm saying is that to be a generational player, I feel like you have to have had an X amount of time in your career to be a player that subsees generations that we're not going to see again for generations.
All right. Do you actually have a valid argument though, because we're probably never going to see or not going to see a 17-year-old doing this for generations. Football won't see that. You know what I'm saying? However,
you can't compare him to Götze. Götze was just a talented youngster. Different.
I mean, no. Say Götze is just a talented youngster. That's crazy.
It's true though. Like,
it's a talented youngster. It's just a talented youngster. You got to remember, Yamal's 17. He's got 100 appearances for Barcelona already.
Do you know what City's wonder kid? I was trying to think of someone. Neymar at 17.
Yeah, but Neymar is generational and can proceeded to continue to be.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is,
I don't even think Neymar was where Yamal is.
But like, bro, Yamal was done mad things. Yamal was done a mad. Yamal was done a madness already.
He wasn't in Europe. I think that's what. Remember, there was no eyes on him. Do you know what I'm saying?
But man is 17, bro. If he doesn't do anything now, from now to the end of his career, he's not a generational player, bro. He's a generational talent.
He's not, because he's already won everything at 17 almost. If he falls off a cliff now, we'll be talking about him as one of the players that, if you didn't see what Yamal was doing at 17 years old, he'll be one of those references that fell off.
Yeah, but see, if he falls off, and I don't think he's going to fall off like that, even if he does fall off, right? I don't think he will be remembered as a generational player. He'll be seen as a generational talent who unfortunately got injured. Like, I don't think we would say generational player. Like, you had to be there. I think we'll say, guys, do you remember that generational talent who was mashing it up at Barca at 17? Imagine what he could have been. That's how I kind of see it, like, kind of thing. I don't know. But the argument, though, is tough because he's that good.
I just think man need to understand that he like really and truly, he like put it into perspective. He should be in his first year of college, bro. Yeah. Man's already in the Euros. The Liga, like Copa del Rey, like that's like. But and the thing is, it's not even like it's not like he's part of a team that's doing it, bro. By the way, he's badding up the whole scene, bro. Like, this brother on the pitch is different, bro. At 17,
yeah, no one's disputing what he's
doing. Denying that. No one's denying
that. I'm just saying that for me, generational and a generational talent. For me, they're not this. I don't liken them to be the same thing. And I still liken a lot of the talents, not a lot, some of the talents we're seeing in today's game as generational talents. You know, is it some to a higher degree than others? So when I mentioned like Götze, so a generational talent in Yamal, that's like the highest of generation, like compared to like maybe Götze when he was in his teens, or Bojan when he was in his teens, because Bojan is nowhere near what Yamal's doing, but both were seen as generational talents. But there was level.
I don't think they were. It's not the same.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Bojan wasn't seen the same as what Yamal is.
No, he's not. But that's what I just said. I just said that. That's what I mean. I said that.
But there's not a gradation to it. Like, and you can't be a generational player without being a generational talent. Like, that's not generational means like there's one or two of you over a generation. That's what it means.
Look, there's a difference though.
You realize Bojan was seen. Some people saw Bojan as better than Messi, right?
No one in Boston. No, they didn't. They didn't.
I wouldn't say better than Messi, but he was seen as one of the brightest prospects.
There was arguments with Messi, bro.
No, there wasn't.
Yes, no. Bojan's reputation was crazy at one point. About Messi, I wouldn't go that far.
Oh, they were giving Messi injections and all that,
bro.
Messi had to get out. Messi had to out Ronaldinho, Deco, Eto'o. It was nothing like Messi. There's nothing been seen that's been.
No, but again, you're talking.
Wait,
about,
let me say what I'm saying.
You're talking. Go on.
No, I'm saying there's no one that's ever been seen to have what the talent and the hype that Messi had ever in the history of football. It's never been seen before. Where people said we've got to build a whole team around this guy. This is the main guy for years. It's never been seen before. The only players that you get that's seen like that really are people like Pele. You know what I'm saying? People like that level of generational people. When people are saying about like Goetze and Bojan and Pato and them guys were meant to be the guys and meant to be superstars, but it was not the same as this level of like 17-year-old doing this. Goetze was 22. Pato and all them guys were good, but they were never this level of generational talent. Arsenal have not even had a talent generation like this.
I think Yamal, I called Jamal, but don't kill me. Yamal's level
is
Jamal.
Fancy Jamal, you know.
Lamine Jamal blood. Give him a go-to for something, man. Lamine Jamal blood. When he gets the embraces.
When he gets the lineup.
But no. When he when Jamal gets the low fade waves, when he grows up a little bit, because he's gonna realize the trim ain't it. When he gets the low,
when he gets tapered fade,
when he gets the tapered fade, he's gonna be Jamal. He ain't gonna be Jamal.
He's winning Euros with braces in his mouth. Like it's always different.
It's crazy, but
what I was gonna say, Monts, just quickly before I forget.
It's a good convo though.
No, 100%. This is a serious convo. In regards to what Hooks was saying about talent and player, I think there's a difference. So you've got the talent, right? You've got the talent to be the player that we think you're going to be. That's how I see it. I separate them. So Messi was a generational talent and became a generational player. Because what can happen is you can have that generational talent, but you lose your way and you don't get there. But you can always look back and go, bro, that person had generational talent, but they didn't make it.
Who's a player that's become a generational player without being touted as a generational talent?
There isn't one. Doesn't exist.
No. There isn't one. What I'm saying is,
Mo Salah's not generational.
Yes, there is. Mo Salah's a generational player.
He's not generational. He's not.
He's not.
No, Mo Salah probably. All right. No, that's a fair point. I'm not saying definitively, but Mo Salah might be considered as
Luis Suarez. Luis Suarez wasn't a generational talent, generational striker.
Oh, no. You lot are taking it to just great players.
What? These man weren't generational talents. Virgil van Dijk
no. All right, then, even if you don't, Salah, what you're saying about Suarez? Because Suarez wasn't seen as like a good player, like good up and coming youngster at one point.
But you think Suarez is generational?
No, he's not.
Of course, Suarez is generational.
I think Suarez could be generational. You know.
No, he ain't.
I don't think you understand what generational means.
He's not.
I don't think you man know what generational means.
I don't think you man don't.
When I'm saying Salah is generational, bro, and you're telling me I don't know what generational.
You know what I'm saying?
You're saying Saliba is generational, bro.
I say he's a generational talent. He is a generational.
All right, so you agree then?
That's not even my opinion. That's not even bro. Like I said,
you agree with the premise then, Hooks?
That's football's opinion. That's not my opinion.
I understand, but do you agree with the premise then that like the two are completely different?
I said you can't become a generational player without being a generational talent.
Yes, you can. I
think you can, you know.
Yes, you can. There are players that weren't on the radar.
Remember the whole generational thing stems from your perception of how people see you. You see, at a younger age, how the scouts will see you. You can get sort of miscouted, so to speak, to the point where like the scouts look at you and go, "Nah, he's good," but they didn't realize how good you actually were. And then before you know it, you turn out to be one of the best players ever. I'm sure that's probably happened in football.
Nah, come on.
Because we're acting like scouting is 100% right all the time.
So is Hazard generational as well then?
Was Henry a generational talent? Matt, tell me, was he classed?
Well, Henry's reputation was heavy in France. That's what people don't
understand. It's heavy, but because Anelka was seen as a generational talent. Was Henry?
Henry?
You're a little bit older than me, so I'm asking you: was Henry seen as a generational talent?
Henry was one of the superstars when he was in the France academy.
When Henry was 18, was he seen as a generational talent?
You're not understanding. When you're a generation, it's not when you're 18, you know. You think it's just when you're 18 and when you're coming to 18, it's before that.
Any of those times, bro. Could be when he was 20. Was Henry, when he was younger,
I wouldn't have
classed
said
as
so.
Oh,
a
the thing is,
generational
the funny thing is, I can't. The reason why I can't answer that question is because I'm not in France. What I can say though is that Wenger. Reason why Wenger got Henry was because of Henry's reputation when he was a kid. That's why he thought he found a gem.
That's
what happened.
That's fine to say though, dude. That's
the reason
fair.
I asked that question. The reason I asked that question is obviously Hook says you can't be a generational player if you weren't ever a generational talent.
No, because what he's saying is right.
If Henry wasn't seen as a generational talent, he was a talent.
You do realize,
but
you know how we do it? You know how we do it? Yeah.
Generational player.
That's how I'm mentioning the scouts.
Wait. You know what the best thing to do is? You know what the best thing to do is to compare it to the English version. So in England, because we're all around the hype of England. So in England, who are the generational? Who do you think were the most generational coming up in the latest day and age? Not to now. Huh? So who do you think is the highest one? Because the highest one to me, when I speak to certain people, they say it's Joe Cole. They say Joe Cole.
Joe Cole was
higher than everyone.
Was a serious talent, 100%. 100%.
That's what they say. They say Joe Cole, Michael Owens' hype was crazy. I think Joe Cole
is Harry Kane a generational striker?
No,
that's what I'm saying. He is Harry Kane a generational striker?
Not. How can he be?
See, there's a debate to say that he. Here's the thing. I do genuinely feel like this is where no. But hear what I'm saying? Because Kane's only won one trophy, yeah. People will look at that and go, "Oh, it's an amazing goal scorer and he's got one trophy." But imagine if he played for a bigger team and actually say he's still doing the same thing, but he's in it for a team that's winning trophies. I think he gets seen as a generational talent. You know, it's just like his path to being generational was not.
Harry Kane got into Spurs. He broke with Spurs at 23 or something.
Yeah, but maybe his path, like this is what.
I didn't say Kane wasn't a generational talent.
No, that's exactly my point, and that's why I'm trying to say I don't agree with Hooks' point because there is an argument to say Kane is a generational.
How can Kane be a generational? How can Kane be a generational striker when at the time he wasn't even regarded as the best striker in the world?
I asked the question.
Yeah, but how can he be? Yeah, but what I'm saying is the way to debunk that is to say he wasn't even regarded as the best striker in the world. So you're saying Kane was generational and Suarez was generational.
No, what I'm saying is there's an argument, not definitive. There's an argument to say, look at Kane's like come up here, like you said, getting loaned out, ready to tell other players as well, But then you look at what he's accomplished now. You could say maybe there's an argument that he turned himself into a generational striker, but he was never a generational talent at all. No one saw Harry Kane like that. You get anomalies in it. That's all I'm trying to say. And I'm not saying it's definitive, but there's an argument.
Let me get the super chat quickly. Shout out Andy. He says with the super chat, he goes, big up Monts. You can have a Rauha for 90 million. I've had enough of him. Us Barca need a summer overhaul. Still drained. I cried. I took a 7-mile walk. Big up the panel. Raw. Andy's down bad. I know that one there. Being 3-2 up and that's the mad thing. Should have told your mom to go to the corner. But no, he'll get there eventually, right? But that's dark in it. Was that dark when it was that dark? That was dark.
Listen,
7 mile, and people aren't deep in how long a 7-mile walk is. You know, 7-mile walk is crazy. You know.
Wait, can I just say something about so you see just on the Henry thing, like obviously none of us can like really comment personally because obviously like at the time
that's why I asked the question.
He wasn't in France and all of that, but you do realize that Henry was one of the best products out of the best academy in France, which is rated one of the best, if not
he was the main guy. He was the main guy in France.
In world football. I think the only player in his
you had Trezeguet as well sometimes, no?
No, he's younger than Trezeguet. I think the only player that was regarded higher than him that's roughly around his age bracket was Anelka. But Anelka was a superman. You do realize that Henry, went straight from Clairefontaine into AS Monaco, which at the time was one of the top French teams without a trial.
Yeah.
Like he didn't, they did it. He like I don't think people understand. Then Henry went from in his first full season as a youth, playing in the first team of Monaco, helped them win the French title. And then the next season, he was instrumental in helping them get to the Champions League semi-final, where he won Young Player of the Season, and then he went on into the French the French national, and this is what I mean when I say you have to be a generational talent to become a generational player, because that's not a normal path.
It's not, but there's a middle ground between taking a path that's not normal and being generational. Because I don't know if people know what a generation. When people say it spanned generations, we won't be alive to see another one of you.
Henry spans generation.
You could really span. I mean, Mbappe's got a similar path, innit?
Okay, let's be real now.
Does he not?
Let's be real, Look at Henry, basically, the point that I'm making is you have to be a generational talent to become a generational player. I'm saying I don't know. I don't know whether do you know what? When Henry was in the Clairefontaine Academy, I don't even know if they use terms like generational talent. I think that's a fairly new football.
That's not a new term.
I'm not gonna lie. I think it's a fairly new footballing term.
Nah, no way.
But
it's not. I don't think so.
If you look at Henry's youth progression into first team football, it's not normal. And now we're talking about the guy who still to this day is spoken of as the greatest of all time to play in the Premier League. We're talking about a guy who.
Yes, but we know that.
Wait. We're talking about a guy who, we all watch CBS. Look how many players that are cold now that look at Henry as their idol, bro.
That's to do with his stuff done in the game. He's now an icon. Remember, Henry's an icon in football.
We're saying that we're talking about being a generational talent and translating to being a generational player. Because there are talents that people deemed as generational that didn't become a generational talent.
Because
people don't like when we bring up the Bojan thing. But if you actually go back and do your research with Bojan, how highly he was rated was crazy.
Not like Messi.
Conversations with
but
Messi,
even if it wasn't like Messi, though, he was still seen mad high.
Not even
Bojan ended up at Stoke, and Messi ended up being.
You can fail. That Bojan doesn't go against what I'm saying. I may be wrong in thinking that he wasn't regarded as a generational talent. He may have been regarded as a generational talent, but he didn't become a generational player, because you can be a generational talent and then not be a generational.
I agree. Fully agree.
You cannot.
There are still. If you ask anyone, who's the greatest British player? Who's the greatest British player of all time? I don't want to open a can of worms here, but is it fair to say that Gareth Bale was one of the best British players of all time?
As a player.
Yeah.
Obviously, people will say people like George.
Okay, I'm not going to say the best.
He's definitely one of them.
Hold on. I'm not going to say the best. I'm not going to say the best for argument's sake. But is it fair to say Bale is in the conversation for one of the best British players of all time?
Yeah, he's one of them. Bale, Rooney.
Right.
Yeah.
Was Bale a generational talent? Because if you're one of the best British players of all time, you are a generation. You must be some form of a generational player.
But it's hard for us to know that because we don't know, because he's in Wales.
So was Bale a generational talent?
We don't know.
You know what?
How do we judge?
Even though
from my
but I think
generational talent to reach out. Do you get what I'm saying?
I think that will only work if you believe that Bale was a generational player.
But we don't know that because we're not there. We can only judge it from players that we know.
You don't have to be in Wales to know if Bale was a generational talent or not.
Yes, you do, because you have to. Generational is a label that's put on by the football.
You do have to know,
guys. I slightly.
He was at Southampton when he was a teenager. It's at Southampton.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
But generational doesn't start out when you're in the first team. It starts out before that.
No, but in the youth, whatever. What I'm saying is, I think Bell was seen as a prospect, but I wouldn't say he was seen as a generational
Yeah, like
talent.
just
Because
because
you get
someone is
prospects
highly
in
rated,
any
that don't mean you're
academy,
a
right? You get
generational
the
talent.
prospects and
Yeah,
whether
no,
it's
I
how
think you're saying, but I'm just saying we can't
Yeah.
judge. There's certain players that we can't judge because we don't actually know. Certain players we do know. Like we know what Owen's reputation was. We know what Joe Cole's reputation was. Rooney's. We know what those girls' reputation was. We can't judge Henri and Anelka because we don't actually know.
But is it fair to say though that the fact that we're even arguing about Bale or debating whether Bale is or not, like me, Monts think no, you guys might think yes, or you're not sure, right? And then look what Bale's gone on to go and doing it. Like that's what I'm saying. When you start your career, sometimes you're not seen as a generational talent. Like the scouts might not like that's a scout is not always 100% correct, but you can go on to be absolutely insane. Because I'll be real, Bell is one of those players. Listen, I can't sit here and say I watched him in Bell at early Southampton days. I can't sit here and say that, but some of the games I did see of him, I thought, he's good in it. I didn't know Bell was going to go and do that. And he's going to be one of the best British players ever.
Yeah.
So
shout out to hold on for 1 second. Keep we're just gonna get the super chat and hold that thought for 1 second, my bro. He says, Ozan says, big up Ozan for the super chat, by the way. He goes, to me, generational talent is a player that comes around once in 30 to 50 years. It spans generations.
Exactly. And this is where I think that I feel like we're kind of missing the point of it. Like, you can still go on to do mad things in the game of football and be mad successful in the game of football, but not be generational. Like, the generational is something that, bro, it's like it's whole new category.
Yeah. It's like it transcends the word world class. Generational is above world class. Like,
generational is, bro, like, do you know what? Yeah. And then I guess there's also like, I think there's another level as well, because it's like, well, not another level, but there's another thing to it of like, there's players that may not be like recognized by the masses as generational, but for your club, there's players that you like for example, I'm gonna be like 85 and I'm still gonna remember players like Henri and Bergkamp. But Bergkamp's like, I don't think anyone would say Bergkamp was a generational player, but to me, I'm still gonna remember him all generations gone by. Do you get what I'm saying? So there are different levels, but I think if you was to ask maybe a group of like maybe 100 random people that had all different levels of knowledge on football, all of them will say that Messi is generational. And then that's the difference. Like, I think some of the players that we're mentioning, they won't do that. And
yeah, but you know, there's some players that a lot of them were generational when they were young, but didn't end up making it. For example,
yeah, because you can fail.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's fine. Listen, all I'm saying, all I think is that you can. There are examples of players who weren't seen as generational talents, but became generational players and done generational things.
No, I agree with that.
That's what I'm saying. That's what we'd be trying to say.
But Hooks is saying that without being a generational talent, you can't be a generational player. I can't. I just feel like that's closed-minded, because
without being a generational talent,
there are players who become good after the age.
Oh, sorry, I thought he meant when he was younger.
No, he's saying if you're not a generational talent, you can't be a generational player.
But overall,
generational talent from when you're like, is from when you're younger that you're a generational. I don't think there's any evidence of a player that wasn't regarded as. Do you know what? We can even interchange generational talent for best in slot through their youth. I don't think there's ever been a player that hasn't had that accolades in their country's youth football that's gone on to be a generational player. Like,
They probably hasn't.
We're using the word generational too loosely, and I mean, I
agree with that point. You're basically anyone that gets to the top of that level at some point, they must have been seriously when they were younger. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Nah, man. You don't. I don't think. You can. You could not
give me
you cannot be seen as, by the way, because when we're saying generational talent, I think what you're doing is you're uplifting the word generational, Hooks, on which you should be doing. I agree with that, but you're downplaying the meaning of generational as a generational talent when we're spanning into the younger years, because there are players that were just seen as prospects and good players, just really good talents at their age. And man are just saying, nah, that was generational. That weren't generational. Bell weren't generational. If you're saying Bell is a generational,
I don't think Bell was
generational when
no, you're saying no. You started that by saying Gertzer. You started by saying
that weren't generational when they were in their teens, but they've gone on to be generational players.
Who?
I gave you names.
Who?
I gave you names.
Yeah, but that's where we disagree, because you said Salah's a generational player. So
he's
not
a generational player.
I'm saying that. I know that whatever you're
not a generational player.
All right, that's fine. All right, that's fine. That's fine. Then take him out.
Neither is Hazard. Neither is.
Wait, Hazard's not a generational player.
How can Hazard be a generational player? All
right. So he's a generational talent, though. He was a generational talent, though, right?
Well, how can he be a generational player?
I don't know. I wasn't in. I don't know. Maybe
Hazard, bro.
Would you say? Surely you agree with me on this. Neymar was a generational player, right?
Yes, Neymar is a generational player. And talent. Neymar is both. Neymar is both.
Neymar is debatable.
I think it's debatable, personally.
You think it's debatable?
Definitely.
I think but you know why? But you know why? Do you know what? You also have to factor into like this generational thing as well. Like when you look at Brazil, like look how many, like look at the names that Neymar has to go up against. Like I personally think Neymar could have became an like undisputed generational player if he didn't leave Barcelona. But I feel like
for me,
him leaving Barcelona and going to PSG, like, and then for what he wasn't able to do, and then all of the injuries, like he was too inconsistent. Like, if we're talking about, I don't think his talent, like his ability,
the only thing he didn't win was Champions League. Did you realize that? That's the only thing.
Yeah, but it's like I don't know. I don't quite know. Like
with PSG, by the way.
Like PSG, yeah. But the thing is, yeah, that this, like, this is my personal opinion.
Is Ronaldo? Is Ronaldo? It was Ronaldo generational.
What was he?
What R9?
Yeah. No, Cristiano Ronaldo.
Cristiano, was he seen as a
Yeah, but
I don't know. Was Ronaldo seen as a generational talent when coming out of the sport?
I'm asking both questions.
Yeah.
He's definitely seen as a generational player, Cristiano Ronaldo. Yes, Cristiano Ronaldo.
How about generation? Was he a generational talent when he was a kid?
Generational talent. Ronaldo was seen as a talent. I don't think CR7 was classed as a never before have we ever seen this teenager.
Wait, he went from Sporting
to Manchester United. I'm not gonna lie. Never have we seen this before ever. Winger again. Like you lot just told me not to downplay the word generational, and never in 30-50 years have we seen a teenager like CR7.
What are you saying? We saw Messi.
No, I understand what he's saying. What he's saying is this year in Portugal.
We saw Messi.
Was he seen as a crazy good prospect or generational? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I can't comment because I'm not from. I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. That's the point I'm making.
Right, so that's why we have to end the debate.
I'm not deciding. No. You're misunderstanding. It's not. I don't decide who's generational. Like do you know what it's like? I hate to boil it down to this, but it's like. Do you know?
You just said you can't be generational.
You got a football manager. Do you only got a football manager and they're like wonder kid?
Yeah.
That's the only way I can kind of think about. Like I don't decide. Like I'm just like these are things. It's not us who decides who's generational talent, or it's not down to us. We don't decide. So I don't know. Maybe in Portugal at the time he was seen as one of the generational talents. I don't know. Maybe he wasn't.
You don't have to be. You don't have to be. In the country,
Ronaldo, when he was like,
you don't have to be in the country only to know if someone's generational. And as I said, there are examples. For me, Suarez is a striker that we won't see for another 30 years. That's the way I see it. What Suarez has done, not saying people can't come close to that, but Suarez. And for me, Suarez was not a generational talent.